Most wholesalers have no idea how many calls it actually takes to close a deal, so they quit after 50 calls thinking that it doesn't work. Today, I'm pulling back the curtain on the exact math that runs my 7-figure wholesale business. I'm talking about the real numbers that tells you precisely how many dials equals a deal. I'm going to show you why it's statistically impossible to fail at this if you just understand the volume game. And more importantly, why even with beginner numbers, you're still making more per hour than most jobs. This is the video that I needed when I was 19, staring at my phone, too scared to make my first call. Forget my numbers for just a second. Let me show you what a complete beginner just achieved. This is Matt and Nick, two members inside of my inner circle who started from zero. They built their list of houses driving for dollars using Deal Machine and their cell phone, nothing crazy. Here is what 60 days of grinding looked like for them. They were able to make 2,787 total dials, and they had 166 actual conversations from that. Keep in mind, that's a 5.9% contact rate, which is pretty average. From those conversations, they were able to get 22 qualified leads. They were able to set up 16 appointments, and they were able to get 4 contracts signed, and they ended up closing out all 4 of those deals and had a total profit of $20,000 in assignment fees. Let's break this down. 2,787 dials divided by 4 deals equals just about 700 dials for every closed deal. That's about 23 hours of work for every $5,000 assignment fee. Even with beginner stats, that's $217 per hour. It is crucial that you know your numbers. However, I know that is easier said than done, so I have 3 gifts for you for watching today's video. And the first one is this tracker sheet that will allow you to always know your numbers. I'm sure you're looking at this and it can seem overwhelming. However, when you go to the link in the description and you grab your tracker, it is going to come with an entire tutorial on what the metrics mean and why they're important and how it can help you with your business. This tracker tells you your conversion rate in your market at your skill level. The key is tracking everything so you know what's actually happening. Based on what I've seen training wholesalers, here are some realistic expectations. Most beginners have anywhere between a 5% to a 15% contact rate, mainly being because they're a little bit nervous and they're a little bit rusty on the phones. Out of those contacts, about 5 to 10% will actually show interest. Month number 1 is usually a heavy learning curve, so you might not get a deal. Month number 2 and 3, this is where most people actually get their first deal closed. The key is volume. If you're only making 20 dials a day, it is going to take forever. When me and my business partner got started, we were doing 200 plus dials every single day, and that's why we were able to see results within just a few months. For this video, I built out a very simple calculator to show you why this works. So this here is the calculator that basically explains how all these numbers work out. Basically, this is going to calculate for you and give you a rough estimate of how many dials and how many hours it's going to take you to get that first deal closed. And the cool thing about this sheet that I made is that you're able to compare exactly how much you might be making per hour right now to what you could be making if you close out that first deal. Now, the numbers that you see here in yellow are the only numbers that you actually need to edit on this sheet. Now, the numbers that you see here on the right are the low and the high end inputs that you need to put in order to get that result. So we're going to start with dials per day. You need to decide whether you're going to be aiming for the low end, which is 100 dials a day, or if you're aiming for the high end, which is 200 dials a day. So let's say you went with the high end and you chose 200. That's what you're going to put here in the yellow right here. Now, the only other number that you need to change is this right here, which is the baseline hourly wage. And this is where you're going to input your current hourly wage so you can compare how much you're making now to what you could be making once you close out your first wholesale deal. I'm going to put the link for this sheet in the description. However, I want to walk you through exactly how these numbers play out. So based on these numbers here, if you're aiming for 200 dials every single day, it is going to take you about 30 days to get that first deal closed. However, obviously you can see right here, the hours invested might be a little bit different and the effective hourly rate is a little bit different as well. However, that is dependent on if you're aiming for the low end of a $10,000 assignment fee or the high end of a $20,000 assignment fee. And it is also dependent on how many dials you're able to get done within 1 hour, whether that's the low end of 30 dials or 45 dials on the high end within 1 hour. Now, the really cool thing about this, worst case scenario, even if you are only hitting the low end of the side of this sheet, you're still able to hit a 5x return on your typical hourly wage, saying you're making $20 an hour. So now you know exactly how many dials it's going to take for you to close out your first deal. But at the end of the day, who knows what the size of that first deal is actually going to be? So let's say you want to calculate exactly what you need to do in order to make $10,000 a month. And that is what my third and final gift for you guys today is for. Here is the income calculator. And just like the first sheet, there's only a few numbers that you actually need to edit, and those are the ones that are right here within the yellow. However, most of these can stay the same. The most important though is choosing your monthly income goal. So let's say your goal is to make $10,000 every single month. And I'm gonna assume that a conservative assignment fee is around $5,000 per deal. So just based off the inputs that I've already put in here, on the low end, it's going to take me about $6,000 per month, about 200 dials a day, and it's gonna take me about 4.5 hours every single day in order to hit my $10,000 a month goal. However, if I wanna hedge my bets and I wanna put in the highest amount of inputs, it's gonna take about 12,000 dials per month, about 400 dials a day, and it's gonna take me about almost 9 hours every single day to hit those goals. However, hedging for this high end is to ensure that you are going to hit those income goals. It's just gonna make your chances 10 times higher than if you were to be aiming for these low end numbers. And I promise you, if you hedge for these higher numbers, you are going to smash your income goals. So here's what we know for sure. It takes consistent daily calling to get deals, and the more calls you make, the faster those deals come. Whether it's 500 calls or 2,000 calls, for your first deal, it depends on your market, your list, and honestly, some luck. But if you track everything like I just showed you, you'll know exactly how long it's going to take to hit your first $10,000 month. If you want that level of accountability and help with your numbers, click the link in the description to learn more about our inner circle. But honestly, just download the 3 gifts and start dialing. The math works if you work. See you in the next video.